Boy, do we have some movies to talk about. Now, since I've kind of taken a slight break out of nowhere, unfortunately, due to some crazy extravagant events in my life recently, I decided, hey, why not just talk about the last 4 movies that I saw this past winter. So this is the winter roundup of all the movies that I have seen in theaters from this past winter. Kicking things off, we're going to start out with the oldest one and probably the best one of the year so far. We're going to talk about Companion. Written and directed by Drew Hancock, a billionaire's death sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to his lake house estate. Now, I gotta say, this is gonna be the bland kind of generalization of what the movie is about, because if you've seen the poster for this movie, which I'm going to try and not use the one that they used heavily for the marketing, and if you've seen the trailers, you kind of get a lot of the spoilers for what I think is the best parts of this movie out the way. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit bland. I'm going to try to keep the rest of these reviews at least a little bit shorter than I want to, just because we're going to be talking about a couple of them here. But Companion, I thought was excellent. Sophie Thatcher proves once again that she is on the rise in the Hollywood scene for films and television. She is now starred in this and previously in Heretic, and I want to say it was a show called Yellow Jacket. I could be mistaken on that one, but I heard that she was fantastic in that as well. It's a really great story, and it's a great concept for it. Obviously, when you watch it and you kind of see what happens in it, like as it's kind of unfolding, you go, oh wow, this is awesome, and it's really fun to see. And I thought that the buildup of tension and I thought the direction of this film was spot on. Jack Quaid was also a really good standout in this movie as well, as he is in most films and television shows that he is in right now, absolutely killing it in the roles that he has partaken. And Lukas Gage is also another standout, more specifically because I was looking at him and I was like, watching it, I was like, who is this guy? Like, I feel like I recognize him from something. And he was in Smile 2. So yet another horror movie that he's kind of taken a part in. While this one's probably a little bit more on the thriller side, definitely kind of in that realm for sure. He's definitely done some good work so far. It has some really great dark humor in it too. And like I said, like all the surrounding stuff that happens with it and the interesting, stuff that they could do based off of this concept that they have for the film, how characters bounce off each other, how characters kind of switch up at points based on the events that kind of occur in this film, I thought was really, really great. Really, my only complaint with this movie is it feels like it just runs a little tad too long. Kind of feels like it overstays its welcome just a little bit at times, but nevertheless, it's definitely one of my favorites of the year so far. I'm going to give Companion 4.5 stars. Next film we got up on here is another horror movie, a little bit more towards the slasher aspect of things. We're going to be talking about Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes is directed by Josh Ruben and tells the story of Allie, who, while on her makeup campaign that she is doing for her company has been shut down, she must face off against the mass killer who has been killing couples every Valentine's Day. I wanted to like this a lot more than I did because I remember seeing Thanksgiving a couple years ago and I was like, oh yeah, holiday themed slasher seems kind of fun. Last, time around we did Thanksgiving, and that honestly was really fun to watch. And when I saw the trailer and the Can't Take My Eyes Off You song starts playing in it, I was like, okay, it kind of knows what it is. It's a little bit self-aware in that sense. Let's go. Like, I think this will be pretty fun. And parts of it is fun and parts of it is entertaining, but outside of that, I kind of felt a little disappointed in this. For starters, I thought that Mason Gooding was actually the best part of this movie as far as the actors go. I thought he was really charismatic and really charming, per the usual. Most recently, he was also in the Scream reboot movies, so that kind of gives him a leg up a little bit in this situation. But also, Olivia Holt in this, I just was not a big fan of. My thing with it is that I don't believe their relationship throughout the entire movie. I just kind of think that, like, the way that they go about this story, they don't really make them together for a lot of it. And honestly, they almost feel like they're repulsed by each other a lot. And that doesn't really work for the story, at least for me. Because yes, you could look at this as it's a callback to classic, 2000 slashers where it's all just about the gore and the kills and no one really cares about the characters and you just want to see them all die. And that's fair. There is a lot of characters in this movie that you may want to see die, for sure. And I thought the kills were actually really fun and really innovative. But at the heart of the story, anytime you have a slasher movie, you gotta have a little bit of like, oh, I like these characters and I want to see them prevail and defeat the enemy that is bestowed upon us. And I just never got that with this one. Not only did I not like that sort of stuff part of the movie, I also really didn't like the ending at points, because it kind of just feels like the rug's pulled out from under you, and they go in a direction at a certain point in the movie where I was like, oh, this is actually fun. I like this idea. This would be a good way to do this. And then they just kind of feather off into a different aspect of the story. And I was like, ooh, that's not something I would have done. And it honestly drags the movie on for like maybe an extra 10-15 minutes longer than it actually really needed to be. Don't know if I would totally watch this again, maybe like on a horror themed night, you know, and you want to watch a holiday themed movie. You know, maybe it'd be fun to see again, but this isn't something that I'd probably definitely, you know, run back to for sure. There's some fun moments in there. Obviously, the kills are probably the standouts for this movie, but outside of that, I really wanted a little bit more out of this. I'm going to give Hard Eyes 2.5 stars. Now we got to talk about another film that was an even bigger disappointment and the worst film of the two for sure. Love Hurts is directed by Jonathan Eusebio, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that to hell right there. It stars Ke Huy Quan as a realtor who is beloved by all of his clients, but has a dark past behind him. And once those elements come back into his life, he must try to fight his way out of it once again. Another trailer that I saw and was like, oh, this could be really fun, and it's a more Valentine's Day thing again, and you know, this should be pretty interesting to see. And when I saw the runtime for it too, and when I saw like the reviews coming out for it and talking to other people, I was like, oh, this might not be as good as I wanted it to be. And it sure wasn't. This is a pretty big disappointment for the year so far for me. I was really looking forward to this. And honestly, the biggest issues with the story is how it's not really fleshed out at points. Never mind the actors in this story. I think that everyone does kind of a similar job here. Ke Huy Quan's probably the best of everybody here. But in general, like, everyone just kind of feels the same, kind of one note. No one's really that interesting, and there's actually some bad performances in here too from other actors. But again, the biggest complaint that I do have with this movie is its layout of its story. The pacing on this movie is atrocious, actually. It's so breakneck pace, and it just moves along at such a rapid fire sequence of events. It doesn't let anything breathe. It doesn't allow you to kind of engulf yourself with these characters. Ke Huy Quan's arc, you're supposed to like see him now as like this realtor who's supposed to be like a good, fun guy who's all about being charming and getting people their dream homes and stuff like that. But in his past, he was like an assassin and like fights people a lot. And you don't really get to see a lot of that sort of element play into this movie, at least from like the aspect of like how much he's changed and what events occurred to help him change. There's like a specific event, but it doesn't show like the gradual, like when he's out of it, how did he get to this point? And again, there's other characters in here too that do certain things, and it just kind of feels like a switch. Like, it's just like, oh, I do this now. This is part of my story now, and this is what we are going to do and talk about. And I'm like, no, I kind of wish you would explain a little bit more. I kind of wish you would sit on it a little bit more, or just in general do a better job with it. And also, this is supposed to be like an action comedy, and I didn't really laugh that much in this movie, and that's one of the biggest damning things when you get a movie that's kind of got that comedic flair, you know, going for it, or at least that it entails that's what it's going to do. And when it doesn't land on a lot of its jokes, it just becomes kind of like a, like, am I supposed to react? Am I not supposed to react? It becomes kind of like a cringe fest almost. Honestly, the only redeeming quality for this film is the amount of action that it has in it and the action that's presented in this movie. All the hand-to-hand combat scenes, for the most part, from what I remember, are actually really fun and really entertaining. More specifically with Ke Huy Quan, when he's in one of his homes and he's fighting Marshawn, Lynch, and his best friend in there, and like all the practical effects where they're like throwing people through like chairs and, you know, the walls and stuff like that, and all the hand-to-hand fighting is honestly really fun and really good. The best way to describe this movie is kind of like a YouTube action movie where you would go, oh, I really want to see that fight, but I don't want to watch the entire movie again, so I'll just YouTube the fight, you know, and just watch it that way however many times I want. Otherwise, it's really a waste of time, and it's just a really, really disappointing movie. I was expecting a whole lot more from this. I'm going to give Love Hurts 1 star. And finally, we've made it to the final film on this list that I have here, and it's in contention with one of my favorite movies of the year so far. We are going to be talking about The Monkey. The Monkey is written and directed by Osgood Perkins and tells the story of twin brothers who stumble upon their father's antique monkey with a drum set, and as they twist the key on the back of it to wind up this toy, death and chaos ensue. Let me just tell you this right now. Go in this movie with the right mindset. I would say watch the trailer, because I don't believe it gives a ton away. It gives you the tone of it for sure, though. Please go in this with the mindset of this is a dark comedy. This is meant to be funny. This is meant to be over-the-top humor and over-the-top, just bombastic stuff is happening, and I love it for it. This movie is hilarious. The direction from Osgood Perkins is on full display here. Previously, we talked about him on Longlegs, which is one of my favorite movies from last year. And while it keeps the sort of dark and sort of horror-ish tones that he had from the previous movie, just as far as like it's a creepy monkey, it's some creepy imagery for some of the things, but what really shows on display is the editing process. You see, a lot of the jokes that they do in this movie are based on really great comedic timing and really great cuts and, pans to certain things. It's just on full display in how a director, like when he tells you how to place shots and kind of place scenes together, this is how you would imagine it being. Like, this is his vision for this story, and it's just on full display. He's one of the better directors working right now, just based off of these 2 films that I've seen. And this is based on a Stephen King short story, so there is tons of gore and tons of death and tons of that horror thriller themes that you would want for a story like this. And I gotta say, Theo James does a great job in this role. He has to play a set of twin brothers, and they both have very distinct personality traits that they have to carry on throughout their lives. And I thought that he carried on the tradition of each character and portrayed each one from a younger age to the adult stage very, very well. While the character work is a little weak for this movie, I don't believe it's intended to be the thing that you have to focus on. Again, this story, if you go in it with the mindset of this is a dark comedy, it's pretty much mostly for the kills, it's very over the top, it's not meant to be taken very, very seriously, you'll have a lot more fun with it. Do I agree that maybe the characterization for these people are not great? Sure. There are elements of the story where I was like, that's a little weird, that's a little like I wish I would have built on this a little bit more. But again, that's not really what the story's going for. And yeah, once again, another aspect of this movie that I kind of felt was a little weak is just kind of how they tie everything together at the end. There were points where I was like, this feels like it's going a little too over the top, even though we've had some funny stuff in here. We've had some, pretty like, oh, that's happening now, okay moments. But there were elements of the ending that I was like, this seems like they're doing a little too much now. It feels like that they kind of went a little too far over the edge. But regardless, I had a great time with this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. I was laughing hysterically in the theater. I've had a bunch of people that I was watching it with, and I just was almost pissing myself laughing at points. I had a great time with this one. I'm going to give The Monkey 4 stars. And that's it. Those are the most recent films that I had seen in theaters for the past winter. We have some more movies coming up very soon. Obviously, Mickey 17 has dropped this past weekend that I'm recording this, so hopefully I'll be able to get a chance to go see that soon. Plus, we got some more stuff coming out in March, and then, quickly it's going to, be coming up soon because, even though there's a few things coming in here with March and some stuff in April, when May hits, then it's the summer, and that's when the blockbusters come out. That's when all of these movies really start to shine, and I can't wait for it. Be sure once again to check out all the links down below for all the socials. We have TikTok down there. Whether it's banned or not, I'm on there at least for the short time being. We got Twitter still, where I'm going to be talking about films, wrestling stuff, football stuff, really anything that's on my mind, honestly. And then we also have Letterboxd, where I log in some stuff for films, obviously. You should check out that because I do have a playlist on there, or a list, I should say, of Andrew's Never Seen, where it's a bunch of movies that I had never seen. Each entry I put in on there for a film I've seen for the first time. Give it a rating. Give it a little bit of something that I noticed about it or something that I liked about it. Not a full-fledged review, obviously, but it's a running list of things that I seen for the first time that I wanted to document. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out some more reviews coming very soon. Keep those cinemas alive, and I will talk to you all next time.